Toparena! Hey, Christian in the house with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today, guys, we're going to talk about something that we didn't talk it for a while. That is nothing but her Hydra. Since the nerf, rebalance, changes, buff, whatever you call it, I didn't make any content on Hydra because I wasn't doing the content with much effort. But we should talk a little bit about the best teams that are around there to make this content possible with an insane amount of damage. And if we're talking about Hydra and best damage possible, best compositions possible, we need to talk about her. As you can see here, she's present in every team. As the first champion on every team is nothing but Trunda. Trunda was something that motivated for many players the rebalance on Hydra to take away her crown as the queen of the multiple head snakes, but she's still the queen. And she's more queen than ever. The problem is, in a totally different approach than it was before. My clanmate here, Satais, I think he holds the world record right now, and we are going to talk exactly about that composition that he's using right now. We are going to share the secret behind this composition with all of you guys. So this is the optimal version of the composition that we're going to share with you. Trunda, Fyna, Livearena, Islin, Strategos Islin, Bellower, and Fyna. Can we replace some champions here? Yes, we can. We can replace all these 5, but not Trunda, with the old version of it. Trunda, W, Meko, Lanax, Garbtak, and Lydia, and still got amazing damage. Amazing damage. There is also a budget version of it with just one Meko. And the champion from the siege, Lamasu. But it's a lot different into stats building. And a lot more stats intensive, I would say. So we are going to focus on the main strategy of this main team. What we can replace around that team. You can replace Islin here for the Incarnator, and you can replace Fyna for Dutchers or Glycad. I prefer Glycad, but these are possible exchanges that you can do without losing much damage. What's that the strategy is about? We are using the passive of the Fyna combined with the 4 high elf champions that are Fyna, Livearena, Islin, and Bellower. You can replace Islin for the Incarnator to make Trunda do the maximum possible damage in a slow rotation for her. We would say like that. So we're going to keep debuffing the heads as much as we can while Trunda nukes them down when she has a ton of buffs on her. Usually buffs that carry the effect of the protection set with 9 pieces, and exploding all the heads all the time that we can. So how are we going to build them? The most important champion is none other but Trunda itself. Trunda should be built in 6 pieces of zeal, because you are already going to ignore a ton of defense using the passive of the Fyna. We're going to talk about when we reach Fyna. So 6 pieces of zeal is the most important thing and the most amount of damage you want. what's important for her here. If you're going to use that composition, you just need 70% of critical damage. And you need her around 200 speed in total. Around 200 speed. Not much faster, not much slower. Around 200 speed. Do not go any more slower than that, because the Hydra is going to get many turns in front of you. Do not go much faster than that, because you want the Fyna with almost the double speed as her. So what defines the speed of this team? The Trunda speed, because you want the Fyna to go twice as fast as Trunda. So having Trunda with the most amount of attack and critical damage you can, with 70% critical hit and 200 around speed, nothing less, not much speed, in 6 pieces of zeal, it's what makes important. On the masteries, I am using that for her. Nothing mysterious, just normal masteries for Hydra focus team. On the relic, there are some options. The best one is not Cat's Gaze, is not RF Coronet. It is Scroll of the Unseen for this composition. The best damage output comes from the Scroll of the Unseen. But if you want to use RF Coronet, is also really good. And if you want to use the Cat's Gaze, it's also really good. And the last point, we are going to use Nature's Wrath here, because the damage output is higher than others that we used to use, like Crushing Hand or Heaven Cast. So we are going to use Nature's Wrath to the maximum damage output, and because you're using Nature's Wrath, you're gonna need to land the HP burn on your A3. So have in mind that you need a little bit of accuracy to land, to be able to land the HP burn during the battles at least 5 times, so for your Nature's Wrath to proc the effect. So that's how you're gonna build the Trunda. Having the speed of the Trunda, we are going for the Fyna. On the Fyna, what makes that possible? This composition possible? It is this passive here. Because with 3 ally high elves, allies will ignore 5% of the target's defense for each buff on them. And we're going to keep the Trunda with 10 buffs all the time, almost. So that's really important for this composition to work. We're going to make Fyna buff Trunda with increased attack, increased critical hit, increased critical damage all the time, and reset Trunda skills with these A2 here. So we're going to give her 6 buffs plus the refresh skills, and they ignore defense for this third part here. That's we rotate the composition. About masteries, I'm using that for every other champion but Trunda. I'm using these masteries. If it is a debuffer, you can put Master Haxa. Also, since Fyna is not a debuffer, I'm not using, but you can put Master Haxa if you want. On all other champions but one, I'm using Cruelty. I don't have many stars on them, so I'm using the low stars. But as higher as you have, the best. And the best set for her on this composition is no other but 9 pieces of protection. Because you're going to give your team at least 6 buffs. And that's gonna boost your damage by 30%. The speed we are going to use on her, it's around the double of the speed that we got on the Trunda, because we want her to cycle twice as fast as Trunda, to keep always having her refreshed during all battle. This is really important, because you're going to cycle to your abilities fast enough, because you got an extra turn on the A3, fast enough to cycle every turn of the Trunda, giving her the refresh of her skills in perfect timing, and maintain the 10 debuffs on her as much as we can. So that's the speed we are going to use on the Fyna. All other champions have reasonable speed. We're going to talk about them. Let's go straight to the Bellower. Bellower I'm using in Cursed set and 4 pieces of Muscles to try to reset his skill faster. You can also put him in 4 pieces of Muscles and 4 pieces of Reflex if you get. What's important on him? To be fast and to have some kind of damage. So I'm using him on that speed 337 for the Hydra team. To recapitulate it, we are talking about Hydra at Nightmare difficulty. So these speeds are used to Nightmare difficulty. If you want to go lower, just drop the speed by 20 for each difficulty that you drop from the Ultra Nightmare, from the Nightmare, and it might work. So that's the stats we are using on him. A little bit of damage and accuracy to land the debuffs. The most important thing for him is to land the decreased speed and decreased defense. So we are using that on him, and cruelty on masteries. I'm using that way, like I said. The other champions, the other high elves that we talked about are Deliana. My Deliana is on 9 piece of Pharaoh, but you can use her in the same way as Bellower in Cursed set and Merciless set, 4 pieces of each. The speeds I'm using on her are these speeds, 334, and enough accuracy to land the debuffs. The things most important here is to not have them so slow because they're going to rotate, but a lot faster than Trunda. Not faster than Fyna, but a lot faster than Trunda. You can go as close as Fyna as you can possibly reach, but do not go slower than Trunda. Over Trunda's speed, as close as Fyna's speed as you can for all other champions. The other champion that we are using is Islin, Strategos Islin. I don't even got masteries for him. I'm using him in 9 pieces of protection. These are the stats that I got on him: 344 speed, enough accuracy to land the debuffs, and that's it. That's what we got for him. 9 pieces of protections, because the amount of buffs that he can land will also help us a lot to improve our damage. You can replace him with the Incarnate. This champion here, you can replace him with the Incarnate. They have the same purpose, very close mechanic. They can provoke the Hydra head on the A1, and you can protect the team and give some buffs with the A3. So that's the purpose of this champion, and she's also a high elf. It's important to be a high elf because you need the 4 high elf buffs to be there to proc the Fyna's passive. And the last champion that we are going to use here is Glaycod. My Glaycod does not have masteries, I'm using Intimidate Presence on him, the only one that I don't have cruelty. And I'm using him on 9 protection. The best way to build him is faster. He's the fastest champion on the composition, but I don't have the stats to put him over Fyna in speed. So I'm using him on 304. That's the maximum I can. His main goal is to keep the rotation with perfect veil as much as they can, and he also gives you a little bit more damage because of the passive damage boosting when your champions are on the veil. So that's his main goal here, and he's also able to put increased defense and increase accuracy and revive your champions. So he's a safe champion for using the composition. A safe champion, but he's not the best. The best champion for this role is a champion that I don't have, that is Fyna. Fyna is the best champion for the Glade card spot. I don't own him, but he can put decreased speed on the A1. He can put decreased accuracy and block buffs on the A2. On the A3, he can put the perfect veil and increase resistance. And he also has a multiplication of damage here on the passive. And also can boost your accuracy and resistance, which is really, really, really strong. He is the optimized version of the build. I don't own him. We are using a replacement. You can replace on this composition Islin for the Incarnator, or you can replace Glade card for Hero. You can also replace it for Duchess, Veil champions. That has something to add to your team. So the speed I'm using on the Glade card, I already show. I'm going to show all the speed of the team. Remembering this is a nightmare composition. This is the team. He's manual, not an auto team. He's manual. That's why I'm not doing any setup. Just going to show you the stats that we got here. The fastest champion I got, it's Fyna. This is the speed. It's better to have Glade card faster than her, but I can't. 9 protection set. Glade card, 9 protection set. Islin, 9 protection set. Deliana, it can be 4 pieces of Cursed, 4 pieces of Merciless, or it can be 9 pieces of Feral. This is the speed. Bellower, 4 pieces of Merciless, 4 pieces of Cursed, or 4 pieces of Merciless, 4 pieces of Reflex. This is his speed. And Trunda, this is her stats here. And we are going to show you the ROM. We are going to use the Fyna's A3 and just the A1 because we don't need to refresh Trunda right now. On Islin, we are going to try to provoke this head here with the A1. We couldn't. So we're going to refresh the ROM. It's really important to do this. To provoke. So here we are. We landed the provoke. Okay, we continue. On Daliana, we are going to use the block buffs. On Bellower, the A2, to debuff them. On Glade card, we are going to land as much buffs we can. And here, I'm going to start with an A3 to get some of the Natural's Wrath running. And here I'm going to do that and refresh her. Counter attack. And here we going to start damaging the Hydra heads. I suggest you, there are two approaches for this Hydra. Damage as much as you can, or wait for all the heads to be alive to kill them in the same skill. I prefer the first approach. Always have your damage prepared, do the damage. This is the approach that I like the most. But you can use the second one if you want. Do the damage only when you have the 4 heads alive to keep your rotation, always doing the damage in the right moment. I prefer the version of every time I can, I do the A2. I think it's better, but you can wait if you want. Every time that I have a chance here, I'm going to land the A2 of the Trunda. And I'm going to keep all the buffs all the time that I can. Trunda always refreshed. That's why Fyna is so fast. And I have the opportunity, A2. We're going to do that as much as we can. And we're gonna repeat as much as we can. I am going to accelerate the video now so you can see the run running. Let's go. Okay guys, when Trunda gets hit here, we need to take her back as soon as possible. So we're going to try to land as maximum damage as we can here to get her back. So for that, it's good to have some champions with some amount of damage, like Bellower for example. When you get her back, we are just going to set up everything again. And keep doing damage. That's the rotation. You're just going to repeat as much as you can. You can, as I said, either you can apply the strategy to always nuke as you have the nuke, ability, or you can wait and have the perfect timing between the heads to nuke with maximum damage. Both works. Both works. Which one's better? I think the second one's better, but you need some RNG, and I don't like to wait for that. So I prefer to always be nuking. And going to accelerate again to the end. We reached the 100 turn mark. That's our damage till now. We're going to continue to do exactly the same thing to the end. Let's go again to accelerate mode. Okay guys, that's our final damage. This is Trunda's damage. Most of the damage come for her. It's not the absolutely best damage, but it's a very solid damage for this comp. Quick tips that I should give you. Probably waiting for all the heads to be alive, kill all of them at the same time, then doing the splash damage again on all of the heads dead will give you a more damage overall run. But I don't have the patience to do that, so I prefer to be always attacking, because I don't have the patience to wait for the heads to be on the right moment. If you have Glay card, this run is really safe. Even if someone dies, you can revive and continue easily. If you use Fyna, it's less safe, but it's a lot more damage. Overall, the most that you have higher blessings of cruelty, the higher your damage. You can even kill heads with the A1 of the Trunda, just by the counter-attacking. And if you have Daliana in a cursed set, you can take more advantage of the Hex debuff always. So that's the rotation, that's how you do it. Basically you're going to use some of the Trunda's A3 to have the Natural's Wrath fully loaded. Then you're going to always A2 Trunda. If you're going to use my strategy of always attacking with the A2 when you got time. If you want to keep all the heads alive to strike them all at once, you're gonna use some of the Trunda's A1s in the right moments until you have the perfect condition to blast them all. The Fyna rotation is basically A1, A3, A2, A1, A3, A2. As most of the time. Glaycard uses all the skills all the time you have. Islin, you're going to provoke the head that can be provoked, and the other times you're going to use the ally protection when you want more buffs, or the slow AoE slow when you want to decrease the speed of the heads. Bellower is almost all the time that you have the A2 to use decrease defense and decrease and weaken. Daliana, you use the A3 to put block buffs, or the A1 to spread whatever you have on her. And that's the strategy we are using on this team. The stats are over there, and that's one of the best Hydra teams, or the best team that you can. It's not the best version that you show on the screen, but this is the best version. This is the best version. Everybody with a cruelty 6-star. One of the champions with intimidate presence. Trunda with Nitrous Wrath. Trunda with triple zeal and muscless. More damage that you can. Daliana with Pharaoh. Bellower with cursed and the muscless, and everybody else in 9 protection. This is the best version of it. That one that I used is the budget version of it, but also works. You can do a lot of big damage using them. This is the Trunda best team at the moment. And as always, if you like this kind of content, do not forget to and remember, it's all about arena.